IT. It's something that we had been working on since we repurposed the center over there where we had our
As Dave mentioned, we're here for the public hearing on the technology building renovation project. This building has previously been for about 20 years the facilities maintenance location. Uh, and as a result, it has looks like a 20-year-old facilities maintenance building. There's several maintenance items that need to be done to bring it back up to current standards, as well as a little bit of a retrofit to move this from a maintenance wood shop facility to an IT facility. A few of the photographs you'll see here are of the wearing of the wall panels. The garage door area there was the entrance into the wood shop area, the break room, which is going to be renovated back into office space. A few other areas here you can see in the garage with the air cleaners, some of the storage as they're making it work right now for their current use, and a few other photographs of the current facility. As many of you know, one of the largest tasks IT undertakes each year is bringing in about 3,000 new Chromebooks that need to get brought online for the students at the beginning of each school year. They come in on large pallets, and it's quite an undertaking that the team goes through for the last few weeks of the summer before the school year kicks off, and they need a substantial amount of space to be able to bring them in with forklifts and begin the process of bringing everything online. So a large majority of the work we're doing beyond simply doing general maintenance and rehab to the facility is retrofitting it to meet that use. We'll be increasing the storage space to be accommodating to the computer usage as opposed to the old maintenance use. We'll be updating the exhaust system due to the amount of soldering that will be happening, adding in desk space for the additional staff. A lot of the previous staff that were housed out of this facility were actually not on site for a large portion of the day. And then we're also just generally adding an additional storage space for stock, spare parts, equipment, etc. A few more renderings of what the facility will be looking like. That'll be the area there in the top right corner where they'll be bringing in the computers on the pallets. And the bottom left will be the IT kind of training facility that will have the opportunity to be used for multiple purposes. Finally, a couple of the project details. We'll be bidding it over the next month. The public hearing is happening tonight. Bids will be received on May 14th. We anticipate board action if the bids are good on May 19th, with construction intended to be complete October 22nd. The estimated construction cost is about $568,000. And with that, I'd be willing to take any questions you might have.
Are there any questions from board members at this time?
Received on May 14th.
Dave, or Dr. Murillo, is this being paid for by Pepple?
Mr. Perla, yes, the plan is to pay for the construction from the physical plant and equipment levy. I would point out also, and also invite Dana to add any additional information to this. The original construction cost estimate was about half of what you saw on the screen. What you're seeing is a reflection of the current market being really, really tight for some specific trades. It's the intention of the districts to seek bids at this time. And if it's, if the bids come back in the neighborhood of what was described there, it's likely that we may tap the brakes, wait a period of time, and then rebid, because our hope was that this project was more in the $250,000 range. Is that a fair way to say it, Dana?
That's a really good way to say it. Basically, this is a really active market for a couple of specific trades, namely mechanical, electrical, and plumbing contractors have been in really high demand in the last couple of months. So we've been seeing bids coming in extremely high for those trades, and it's just pushing bids for projects overall up. Adding on to that, the situation with COVID-19, it's just really hard to guess what exactly that's going to do to this bid. So we tried to make an educated guess based on our conversations with contractors, what we're hearing back from manufacturers about availability of products, and just general workflow in the construction industry at this point. But it's just really hard to say. So we tried to be conservative.
Ms. Hudak, I see that you opened your mic for a question. Do you still have a question?
No, actually, Dana was able to answer my question.
Thank you. If there are no further questions, we'll move forward to the next item on the public hearing, which is the award bid of number 20-006, the Abraham Lincoln High School student and visitor parking lot replacement project.
Good, thank you. At this time, I'm going to ask Mr. Jared to speak to the bids that came in and walk us through that selection.
Yes, sorry, I had my mic muted there. We had two AL projects. Is this for the student parking lot or was this for the bus lane?
This was for the student and visitor parking lot.
Thank you. Yes, so we bid this job. This is the third and final phase of the Abraham Lincoln High School parking lot replacement project. We had lots of interest in the job. We were fortunate enough to receive good bids. The general contractor, who was the low bidder overall, Bluffs Paving, is the contractor that has performed the previous two phases. There's nothing uniquely new about this other than we will be attempting to freshen up the main entry a little bit, since we're going to be right there and we'll have all that new concrete around there. Beyond that, it is generally more of the same. The prices were in line with expectations and we recommend proceeding.
Okay, are there any questions from board members at this time?
Yes, can you tell me how many bids we received and what the prices were for those?
One second, I'm just opening it up here real quick. Apologize, I had the wrong drawing open there.
We received 3 bids for this project. And the lowest bid was $436,000. A little over that is what I'm showing on mine.
That sounds correct, yes.
Okay. So the 3 that bid was Bluff Paving, Utility of Crescent, Iowa, and the engineering opinion that the construction cost would have been about $469,000, and the lowest bid came in at 436, a little over 436,000.
Yes, that is correct. Thank you for getting that information for me.
Thank you.
Any other questions from board members? Hearing none, we'll move forward then with the next item, which is the public hearing regarding the award of bid number 20-005, the Tinley/Gainesville Building Raising Project.
Jared, we had 5 bids for this. Would you speak to those 5 bids for me?
I sure can. Yes, we had 4 bids, I believe. We had 5 bidders. However, one of the bids did not acknowledge all the proper paperwork, so we couldn't open that bid. With the 4 bids that we received, there was a wide spread on pricing. Our original estimate was $225,000. The lowest bidder was Jim's Hauling with a bid of about $98,000. Anderson Excavating was next at $170,000. The remaining bids were $220,000 to $240,000 in that general range. Just for the board's information regarding the low bidder, Jim's Hauling, for those that were around during the Wickersham project, Jim's Hauling was the contractor who removed all of the homes and businesses that were acquired for that expansion. So Jim is familiar with the bids and specifications. This is going to be almost the exact same specification and requirements that had been through before. Did speak with him after the bid in light of how much difference was between the prices. He was comfortable with it and wanted to proceed. And I am confident he can continue based off his previous experience with the school district.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from board members?
Is there anything that would alter that type of bid, that it would raise that price? I mean, it just is significantly lower. So like if that
as far as change orders, etc.
Yeah.
You know, really the only unexpecteds with any demolition is if you find a cistern or something underneath that is unknown beneath the building. One of the things we do is we remove the footings in the basements and we actually fill the void in completely. When we did building removal for the expansion of the Bloomer parking lot several years ago now, we did find such a cistern, in which case it's simply a matter of buying additional fill to fill it up. Beyond that, this is an all-inclusive price, includes permitting, demolition, and removal of the product.
And I'm assuming he had done a good job at his estimations for the other project.
Yes.
Home removals?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, if there are no further questions regarding the Tinley-Gainesville Building Raising Project, we will move now on to the public hearing for the award of bid number 20-004, the Abraham Lincoln High School Drop-Off Lane Project.
And for that project, we had 2 bids that we received today. So Jared, do you want to speak to those 2 bids that came in?
Yes, yep, we did receive 2 bids. The initial cost estimate we had when we put the project out for bidding was about $305,000. We had 2 bids, one above, one below. The low bidder was Compass Utility at approximately $287,000, and Carly Construction came in a little over that estimate at about $318,000. For those that recall the visitor parking lot expansion we did at AL last summer, Compass Utility, the low bidder on this project, was the one who did that project. And that parking lot will be tying directly into this bus lane driveway.
Any questions from board members at this time? Hearing none, we'll move forward. All of these items during the public hearing will be dispensed with during our regular board meeting. So at this time, I'm closing our public hearing. And now I'm opening the board meeting of the Council Bluffs Community School District Board of Directors this 14th of April 2020. Mr. Wilson, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Mr. LaFurla.
Present.
Mr. Minshall.
Present.
Mr. McGlade.
Present.
Mr. Arthur.
Present.
Ms. Shudeck.
Present.
Whom did I miss here?
This is Dr. Ogres, and I'm present.
Dr. Ogres. Thank you. And Mr. Kazire.
Present. As you are able, would you please rise with me to observe a moment of silence, followed by our Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. And before us now, I believe we have the approval of our board minutes. Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve the agenda as presented.
Ms. Shudak?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And then a motion to approve our minutes has, resolution to approve our minutes has been approved. Now we have, I'm taking it a little bit out of order, the approval of our agenda. Is there a motion to approve our agenda?
Dave, I think Ms. Shudak moved to approve the agenda on
Oh,
that.
okay, I didn't hear that. I was off. Okay, so we will now approve the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move to approve the minutes from the regular business meeting of March 24th, 2020.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And the resolution to approve our minutes has passed. Now is the time for our public hearing. This is time for our, this is time for the public to address the board with concerns regarding our agenda or any items they may have a concern with. We do have a request from an individual, and Mr. Fringer will read the input from this individual.
Thank you, Mr. Kazire. This public input was received via email this morning. It's from a Miss Bethany D. Carolus. Excuse the pronunciation if I didn't get that right. And I'm going to read what she wrote to the board. Hello. This email is to provide written comments to the Council Bluffs Community School District Board of Education as described on its webpage, accessed on April 13th for its April 14th meeting. My family called the Iowa Department of Education to seek clarification on the continuous learning requirements, and the school improvement consultant advised us to contact the school district. Messages left for our school and the district have not been returned to date, so I am now submitting our questions to the board. Can you please clarify what the district's contingency plan for students' education was prior to the COVID-19 pandemic? Council Bluffs has always faced the potential that a tornado or flood could prevent teachers and students from being physically present in a school building for an extended period of time. Can you please clarify what percentage of Iowa school district chose the voluntary educational enrichment program option? The mail from the superintendent to the families on April 6th said most Iowa districts would continue voluntary learning opportunities rather than provide required educational services. According to the district's frequently asked questions webpage link, accessed on April 13th, the district curriculum specialist will adjust the curriculum. Can you please clarify whether, one, the curriculum will be accelerated so students can make up for the time lost, or two, standards will be lowered so the students can pass to the next grade level regardless of proficiency? And finally, of the three options for continuous learning, can you please explain how the district decided the voluntary educational enrichment program best met the needs of students? According to the state's frequently asked questions webpage link I accessed on April 13th, the state understood that the choice among these three options was the best made locally, and that the district's educational opportunities would be rigorous and ensure maximum participation and enrichment. Thank you for the opportunity to provide written comments. I look forward to the board's clarification. Sincerely, Bethany D. Carolus.
Thank you. And I believe that we will be able to respond to those inquiries. I believe that there shouldn't be any problem with submitting those answers to the questions to make sure that she's informed. So,
Is that something that would be valuable to send out to other? We kind of did, I thought, a little earlier.
Yes, I can provide, I'll provide an email personally to our parent for this, and then I'll provide a copy to the board. And then Diane and Dr. Vorthman will work to see where that would go into our FAQ that's posted for all parents to read. So we'll make sure that we are addressing each one of those so that they know.
Dr.
Okay. Yes, Chris.
Sorry about that. I just wondered if one of her statements was that she'd left messages with the district that hadn't been returned. And I know that I'm not really sure where she may have left those messages, but I know that ESC staff members are, for the most part, working from home. So making sure that somebody's regularly checking voicemails and returning calls when needed.
Yes, I've gone through all of my emails and my voicemail, and I asked Miss Amy Stewart, my admin. I also asked Miss Julie Stewart, who oversees secondary schools, because this is the secondary parent. And I can't find a trace of getting communication from this parent, but it's still, I'm sure that she's reached out to someone somewhere, and it's setting. So I started that trace today because I was worried I had overlooked something, but I couldn't find it in my email box, and there was no voicemail for me. And then I asked Miss Amy Stewart to do the same in case it ended up with my admin. We didn't find it there, nor in her email or a voicemail. So then I turned to Miss Julie Stewart Smith. Miss Julie Smith to contact our principal there at TJ also to try to track down did we have we missed a communication? And Miss Smith, I don't know, I know that you told me you did not receive anything. I don't know if you heard back from Dana.
Dr. Freidenberg did not receive a phone call or a voicemail from her on the TJ line at all.
Okay. So we're still trying to see. She might have left a voicemail or sent an email to someone that we haven't been able to connect with yet. But I'll go ahead and respond to her and make sure that we are connecting with her.
Okay, sure. Understandable.
Thank you.
Okay, were there any other individuals that wish to address the board at this time? We had no other individuals, so we will move forward with, I don't have the agenda in front. Okay, we're on the resolutions portion of our board meeting. And I guess we've got it up on the screen here. We have the approval of the revised policy 425, appropriate use of computers, computer network, and internet for employees. Thank you, I'm sorry. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve the first reading of policy 425 and waive the second reading of the policy to expedite the recommended changes that apply to the continuous learning connections teachers are making with students.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Hi. I guess my only question is that we had, went through this policy very thoughtfully to make sure that outside of times like this, that there is not some inappropriate contact being made. Would you foresee this being a temporary change or a permanent change to go forward?
We are looking to make this a temporary change during this continuous learning. And the one really good part about the Google meetings is they are recorded. And so we can go back and listen to the recordings of those meetings, but really we were still concerned that not all students would be able to get online. So that is why we are looking at the Google Hangout phone. It does not record, but it will go through the Google. It will make it an anonymous caller. so that the teacher still feels her privacy with her cell phone that she's using, her house phone, and be able to use the computer to talk with the parent of a student if that was needed. But as soon as we get out of continuous learning, we will go back to the tighter policy that we had before.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Any other discussion with board members? Hearing none, we'll move to the roll call. This is the resolution for the approval of the revised policy 425, appropriate use of computers, computer network, and the internet for employees. Mr. Wilson, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Ogres,
Yes.
Mr. Arthur,
Yes.
Ms. Shudek,
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla,
Yes.
Mr. McGlade,
Yes.
Mr. Minshaw,
Yes.
Mr. Kazire.
Yes. And the resolution to approve the revised policy 425 has been approved. Before us now, we have second reading of policies and the administrative regulations. Those policies for second reading are 215, the Board of Directors closed session and exempt meetings. Policy 216, notification of board meetings. Policy 219, quorum. Policy 509, search and seizure. And then the accompanying procedures, administrative procedure 509.1. Also then policy 629, family night and Sunday activities. Policy 804, facilities maintenance. Policy 906, community use of school facilities, and its accompanying procedural applications for the use of school such facilities, as well as procedures for political campaign appearances at school district facilities. Do we have a motion regarding the policies?
Yeah, I'd like a motion for the second reading approval. So roll call please.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second from Mr. Minshaw. Is there discussion with the board members? Hearing none, we'll move forward to the roll call. Mr. Wilson, would you please call the roll regarding the approval of our second readings of the read policies?
Mr. Arthur,
Yes.
Mr. Minshaw,
Yes.
Dr. Ogres,
Yes.
Mr. McGlade,
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla,
Yes.
Ms. Shudek,
Yes.
Mr. Kazire.
Yes. The resolution to approve the second reading of those policies has been approved. For us now is one of the items that was part of our public hearing, which is the approval of plan specifications of the technology building remodel. Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve the plan specifications for the technology building remodel.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Before us now, we have a resolution to approve the plan specifications for the technology building remodel. Mr. Wilson, would you please call the roll?
Mr. LaFurla,
Yes.
Mr. Arthur,
Yes.
Ms. Shudek,
Yes.
Dr. Ogres,
Yes.
Mr. Minshaw,
Yes.
Mr. McGlade,
Yes.
Mr. Kazire.
Yes. And the resolution has been approved. Now before us is the approval of bid number 20-006, the Abraham Lincoln High School student and visitor parking lot replacement project. Do we have a motion?
Remodel paving of second mile in the amount of $456,167.84 for the final phase of concrete placement for the
Thank you, Mr. Arthur. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a second from Ms. Shudak. Are there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, before us now is a resolution to approve the bid number 20-006, the Abraham Lincoln High School student and visitor parking lot replacement. Mr. Wilson, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Arthur, Ms. Shudak,
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla,
Yes.
Dr. Ogres,
Yes.
Mr. Minshaw,
Yes.
Mr. McGlade,
Yes.
Mr. Kazire.
Yes, and the resolution has been approved. Now before us is the approval of bid number 20-005, the Tinley/Gainesville Building Raising Project. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the winning bid from Jim's Hauling in Council Bluffs, Iowa, in the amount of $97,998 for the demolition of the Tinley Gainesville building.
Thank you, Ms. Shudak. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Arthur, thank you. Or that was Mr. Minshaw. Yeah, Mr. Minshaw. Is there any discussion?
Yeah. I guess I just have one quick question. Have we thought, do we have the plan in place for the removal of the art from the building prior to that demolition yet?
I'm sorry, I struggle to get my mic off. Yes, we will make sure that's removed before that begins, and we're going to store it until we decide and finalize what we will do with that property.
Will the removal of that artwork be done by district employees? Okay,
Yes, we will, Mr. Martin will take care of that for us.
okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, before us is a resolution to approve bid number 20-005, the Tinley Gainesville Building Raising Project. Mr. Wilson, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Shudak,
Yes.
Mr. Minshaw,
Yes.
Dr. Ogres,
Yes.
Mr. McGlade,
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla,
Yes.
Mr. Arthur,
Yes.
Mr. Kazire.
Yes, and the resolution has been approved. Before us now is the approval of bid number 20-004, the Abraham Lincoln High School drop-off lane project. Do we have a motion?
I'll move approval of the winning bid from Compass Utility LLC, Council of Iowa, in the amount of $287,435.96 for reconstruction of the ALHS bus lanes. Is this the final reconstruction of the ALHS parking lot nearby? Perfect. Excited.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I probably should left my comments right now.
Hearing no further discussion, before us now is a resolution to approve the bid number 20-004, the Abraham Lincoln High School drop-off lane project. Mr. Wilson, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Arthur,
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla,
Yes.
Ms. Shudak,
Yes.
Dr. Ogres,
Yes.
Mr. Minshaw,
Yes.
Mr. McGlade,
Yes.
Mr. Kazire.
Yes, and the resolution has been approved. Before us now, we have a resolution for the appointing paying agent. Is there a motion?
Move to approve that the Council Bluffs Community School Board approves the appointment of UMB Bank N.A. of West Des Moines, Iowa to serve as paying agent bond registrar and transfer agent, approving the paying agent bond registrar and paying agent agreement and authorizing the execution of the same.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to the vote for the approval of the paying agent bond registrar. Mr. Wilson, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Ogres,
Yes.
Mr. Arthur,
Yes.
Ms. Shudek,
Yes.
Mr. Minshall,
Yes.
Mr. McGlade,
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla,
Yes.
Mr. Kazire.
Yes, and the resolution has been approved. Before us now is the approval of form of tax exemption certificate. Is there a resolution?
I'll move that the form of tax exemption certificate for the general obligation bonds be placed on file and approved.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second from Mr. McGlade. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to the vote for the approval of the form of tax exemption certificate. Mr. Wilson, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Shudek,
Yes.
Mr. McGlade,
Yes.
Mr. Minshall,
Yes.
Dr. Ogres,
Yes.
Mr. Arthur,
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla,
Yes.
Mr. Kazire.
Yes, and the resolution has been approved. Before us now is a resolution for amending a resolution. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I can move that we approve the amending resolution authorizing the issuance of general obligation school bonds series 2020 of the Council of Community School District, State of Iowa, in the amount of $9,500,000 and levying a tax for the payment thereof adopted March 10th, 2020.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, before us now is a resolution to approve amending the resolution authorizing the issuance of bonds and levying a tax for the payment of the bond thereof adopted March 10th, 2020. Mr. Wilson, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Arthur,
Yes.
Dr. Ogres,
Yes.
Mr. Minshall,
Yes.
Mr. McGlade,
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla,
Yes.
Ms. Shudek,
Yes.
Mr. Kazire.
Yes, and the resolution has been approved. Before us now is an approval of the revised pandemic pay. Is there a motion?
I'll move that the superintendent is hereby authorized to pay contracted and salaried employees their customary and regular pay during the temporary closure pursuant to Pandemic Pay Resolution 1.1.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Yes, I do have a question. Dr. Morello, could you talk a little bit about the unfreezing of the leave and when an employee would need to use the leave?
We froze the leave when we first, it was kind of recommended when we first had school closure because we needed to really focus on who was essential employees and employees that we needed to have engaged and be able to call upon immediately. And as we've now moved into the continuous learning and unfreezing that leave, we will have some parents that may need to take a child to, some teachers that are parents that may need to take a child to a doctor's appointment, or there's something personal that they need to do, and being able to use their leave and it being on notice that, so that the principal knows that there won't be any contact with families or with students during this time. And that's the purpose, and also for employees that work at ESC or in other areas that may need to use some of their time off. And so we felt like we had come to a point in time in our district that we could unfreeze that leave and allow us to get back to some type of normalcy, but not, we know that we're still really highly engaged, but that was the reason that we opted to also include that and unfreeze that at this time.
Great, thank you.
Any more discussion? Hearing none, before us now is a resolution to approve the revised pandemic pay, Resolution 1.1. Mr. Wilson, would you please call the roll?
Mr. LaFurla,
Yes.
Mr. Arthur,
Yes.
Ms. Shudek,
Yes.
Dr. Ogres,
Yes.
Mr. Minshaw,
Yes.
Mr. McGlade,
Yes.
Mr. Kazire.
Yes, and the resolution has been approved. Before us now then is the revised pandemic pay resolution 2.1. Is there a motion?
Move to approve the superintendent is hereby authorized to pay employees that work on an hourly and/or non-exempt basis their customary and regular pay during the temporary closure pursuant to Pandemic Pay Resolution 2.1.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I have a question. Are we going to have, well, this is more about the payment for those folks, but any sort of longer notice out to folks that we think might be available for our staff on if we'd be coming back, if we'd be extending, if we'd be closing, things like that. Just, I know we tend to get notice and then give it out right away. I think.
So it's my understanding the governor is going to make a decision by the end of this week, and she'll provide a 2-week guideline with her decision by the end of this week. That's what I understand.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the question.
I think Mr. Arthur was asking about, is it going to be like 2 weeks and then 2 more weeks? How long do we think it's going to continue to be extended? And in the UEN letter that I shared with you all, it was one of the requests that we had as a superintendent group to be given at least 2 weeks to either prepare to reopen schools or prepare to have schools closed through the end of May. And so she stated not today, but yesterday in her press conference, that she was going to make an announcement on Friday as to whether or not they would be closing or extending. And then she referenced the letter stating that the superintendents had asked for that 2 weeks notice. So we were really pleased with her responding to our letter and allowing us to have that opportunity.
From a health perspective, and looking at the Iowa numbers and the number of deaths and the number of cases, we're climbing up Washington, D.C.'s numbers as well. I would recommend that if and when a decision is made that schools reopen, that there be a plan in place of how you want to transition those students and staff to come back to buildings and what that would look like to provide some type of reassurance to not only the students and the staff, but the community as well. You know, what are we doing for screening or implementing those measures when students come back?
Yes, Dr. Ogres, that's a great point. Today I was talking with a colleague on the Omaha side, and he was kind of surprised that we hadn't already extended to the end of the year because of our numbers being greater than their numbers.
I share his concerns.
And but we have really been discussing what would it look like and the enormous job we would have to ensure that we protect, because everyone believes students are pretty safe, but I care about our teachers that are coming at different age group levels and also with different conditions. So we're not only worrying about our students, but we're worrying about our staff too.
Yep. It's a faceless virus, and you don't know who has it and who doesn't. And asymptomatic patients are out there, and that's how the community spread is happening.
So I'll pull on you if we have to go back. How about that?
You have my number.
I do. Thank you.
With Dr. Ogres is concerned, I guess my concern is once we are back, what the plan would be if something were to arise in a building, how we would move out of that building or deal with that at that point.
Yeah.
Is there a
Great
plan?
point.
Is there a plan, or we're working on that at this point?
Yes. So the cabinet and I have kind of put it into 2 buckets. One, if we would return, then looking at the conditions of what would happen. One being if we had something happen at one building, how would we reallocate those students or staff? But first, we know there'd be really that quarantine period that we'd have to look at, and by what means do we carry that out? But we also have the other bucket of if we don't go back, what does that look like? And so it seems like every decision you make means you got to make 10 more decisions. It just keeps growing. And many will think that we could flip this on a dime, but we're talking over 10,000 students and staff members that we've got to prepare and coach and train. And this is a new way of doing business. And we're in day 3, or some may say in continuous learning, we're in day 5. And we're really trying hard, and our teachers are giving it everything they can to do and really engage students. But we're also in day 3 or day 5. We'll get better at this as we continue to grow through it. So it is something, Mr. Minchell, that we're really thinking about. It will really take a lot of pressure off of us if we get a notice that it's one way or the other, because having 2 buckets sit on your desk, you don't know which one to really focus and work on. And so it is a little bit of stress.
Dr. Merlo, I just have one more follow-up question on this topic, just for the community at home watching.
Yeah.
If the governor says that we go back, do we have the option to say for our area, it's not feasible for us to go back?
Well,
I share the same concerns as Dr. Ogras,
Yeah.
with it being a faceless, virus that we don't know who's out there and who is infected.
Yes. We have one superintendent already in the state of Iowa that has closed their district through the end of the school year just for that reason. But I believe we will have an option, but it may come with us trying to make up some days, hours, or weeks in the summer. But what is best for our district should remain at the local level, that the school board would agree and work with myself and my cabinet on, and we will make our decision for our local area.
I think another key factor is if and when the governors decide when they're going to reopen their states for business, and if that's during a time when schools are open, that's going to increase the risk of transmission. And so that would weigh heavy on me, knowing if the states reopen before schools go back, that puts people at higher risk for transmission, especially for gatherings like events and those types of things, sporting activities.
Yes, and we've also begun to talk about summer school. Dr. Borthman and his team has done a wonderful job preparing some options for us to consider soon. Again, we're waiting to see what the governor says, but we know we still need to do some type of learning throughout the summer.
I will say through this pandemic, adversity brings out character, and I am incredibly impressed with the district. You, Dr. Murillo, and your team and staff, everyone with the car drive-bys from teachers and seeing people in the community. I was able to go to one of them and wave. It's just, it's caused a lot of people to come together in a way that nobody really even imagined. And so I'm just really proud of the district and how everything has been handled. So kudos to everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate that. The parades were a nice lifting of our spirits. I went to my corner, and to have teachers recognize me and say, "There's Dr. Morello," and I've got kids with posters over here, and I'm waving, and it really was. It was a great time. Thank you.
Mr. Arthur, you had.
Well, I guess my point with this is, we've been fairly lucky so far as a community, and as these other processing plants and things have had these outbreaks, when something like that eventually comes here, and trying to minimize that, and then also having 9,000 kids sharing, whatever viruses amongst them and going home to their parents and, giving them a little more susceptible. I mean, the chance that something could blow out of control would be pretty easy. What does it look like for that district to decide, hey, we're going to be closed? What is there anything else that happens to them if the state looks differently at them? Is there anything that they have to conform to or abide by that somehow they're missing out on? Or
Yes. Dr. Borthman, would you go in and talk a little bit about the 3 areas of continuous learning? Because one of the things I believe I remember her talking pretty strongly to is if you did not participate, there were some consequences for your district.
Yeah, when the governor made the initial closure, she forgave the instructional time that's required under Iowa code up through the original closure date. When she extended it, she did so again until the 30th of April, but under some conditions for school districts.
And the conditions were that if you chose to do either voluntary learning or required learning, your instructional time would be forgiven with Iowa code. If you chose to do nothing, you would be making up the instructional time. So we anticipate that any closure that went longer than April 30th would have those same caveats.
Which means we would be making up any time we missed after April 30th through the summer.
And so you can't say, we don't want to have our kids go back, but we will do voluntary learning and we'll track and monitor that. Like mad, and we'll have our high school kids using it at a greater rate than they are. I think you still have to kind of abide by that decision.
Yeah, and yes, that would be our plan. But if she did reopen schools and we remain closed, I don't believe the same option will be in place. I think we will have to make up the days that we do not attend. It would be nice if she would really define, if you are concerned, we want you to reopen, but if you have a high percentage or some concerns in your area, you can continue this online continuous learning. That would be beautiful, but we have right now it was either you do this, or you make up the time. You didn't get the option of doing nothing.
Only legislature and the governor optional time. And that's just the way that Iowa code is written.
So what Dr. Boykin said, only the legislators and the governor could forget
And the
time.
legislators haven't made any more moves to do anything different yet, because they're kind of looking to her a little bit for guidance too.
Yeah. Great.
If there's no further discussion, we'll move forward with the vote for the approval of the revised pandemic pay resolution 2.1. Mr. Wilson, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Ogres, Mr. Minshaw,
Yes.
Yes. Mr. McGlade, Mr. LaFurla,
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Arthur, Ms. Shudek,
Yes.
Mr. Kazire.
Yes, the resolution has been approved. Before us now is a resolution for the administrator contracts. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I will move that the board approve a 1.5% increase in base wages for administrators and standard employees for 2020-2021 school year.
Thank you, Mr. Arthur. Is there a second?
Second.
Dr. Ogres, thank you. Is there any discussion?
I think some folks, there's sometimes a confusion on, is this group a union or not? These are non-union employees. And I think they deserve at least what we give our union employees, and been really happy with how strongly the administrative staff and our staff has come forward and really taken a leadership role in this whole effort and showed the value of a strong team that supports our teachers and our service workers and our communication workers. So just really happy with what you guys have done, and thank you.
I guess my only concern is, and I appreciate all the work that the administrators have done, not only during this time, but throughout their regular year. My only concern is with the COVID-19 and the effect of our budget potentially for next year, how that would look with approving the 1.5% when this is a higher paid tier of employee for the district, not knowing what our budget's going to look like after the COVID's come through.
Yeah, my assumption would be it'd be a less overall impact than our teacher, our CBA. It's a much smaller pool. I think in the past it's kind of these people still have the same cost of living increases that everyone else has. And I think that especially times like these shows the value of a strong
also like to add, Troy, if I might, Dave, is that last year this group of employees took less of a raise than everyone else. So the teachers received a 175 and they took a 15. And so this year we're asking that they continue to receive a 15.
If there's no additional discussion, we will move forward with the vote for a resolution to approve the administrator contract and standard employees increases for 2020-2021 school year. Mr. Wilson, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Arthur,
Yes.
Dr. Ogres,
Yes.
Mr. Minshaw,
Yes.
Mr. McGlade,
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla,
Yes.
Ms. Shudak,
Yes.
Mr. Kazire.
Yes, and the resolution has been approved. Before us now is the approval of our consent agenda. Is there a motion?
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Argress and Mr. LaFurla. Is there any discussion?
This was
Just
generous donation that we recognize of $2,250 from the Raise Hate to Read campaign to Family, which enabled us to purchase 660 children's books from the first book marketplace to be dispersed to our preschool classrooms. So that's great. I hope they get to use them at a time when they actually had them available to be read.
Any additional discussion? Hearing none, before us now is the approval of our consent agenda. Mr. Wilson, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Ogres,
yes.
Mr. LaFurla,
Yes.
Mr. Arthur,
Yes.
Ms. Shudak,
Yes.
Mr. Minshaw,
Yes.
Mr. McGlade,
Yes.
Mr. Kazire.
Yes, and the resolution has been approved. So we have come to the end of our agenda, and I appreciate all the work that Dr. Murillo and her administrative team is doing. I want to thank all of our teachers, all of our paras, and all of our staff members who are working through this challenging these challenging times. And I also want to commend our students for the challenges that they are experiencing. I can't imagine what it would be like to be a senior this year, or even a junior, or even a kindergartner. We only have one opportunity to be in that classroom with that teacher, to make those connections, to be excited about learning. And it just weighs heavy on my heart to know that they're missing out on some of those opportunities that they have been used to experiencing. This raises a new opportunity for us to learn in new ways. I'm learning how to communicate with family members in ways that I never thought I would have to, and in fact, I avoided them at length for many years. But I'm finding that by expanding my skills, expanding my skill set, it's making me a better person. It's so nice to be able to talk to my parents and my sons on a daily basis, something that I have been lax in doing for years. But so my heart goes out to all of the staff and the students in our district. Hopefully that we're learning to adapt and learning how to learn in new ways. With that, I want to thank the board members for learning a new way to engage in a board meeting. It's different and challenging, but I think we'll we'll wade through this and come out better on the other side of this. So with that, thank you for your time and your efforts. And with that, we are adjourned from this meeting.